we've got a few more signings to dive into.
I mean, this offense continues to evolve as the season goes on.
Welcome into Buccaneers Insider, presented by Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook. Casey Phillips here with Scott Smith and Brianna Dix, and we have another win to talk about, 3 in a row.
Yes.
And this one really looked beautiful while we did it. We didn't just win. We look good in these jerseys. I mean, clean as can be. It was the official 50th celebration game. So, of course, it was these 76 jerseys, which I love the idea that, got a win in those jerseys. So our first time seeing the white creamsicle. And, of course, there were over 100 legends in attendance. They brought them all out at halftime, introducing everyone individually, which was really incredible. There was a tailgate for them before. Just an amazing experience for the fans, for the legends, and thank goodness we got a win to top it all off.
The first win ever in those jerseys.
In those jerseys. I love it so much.
Because they were specifically only worn in 1976 when the Bucs went 0-14 in their first season.
Yep. So it was, thank goodness, I feel like this was an important moment for those jerseys. And we got that win. And now, unfortunately, it did not come without some casualties, as we will say, because the injury bug has bitten the Bucs just over and over this season. I mean, I know injuries are always part of the game, and I'm sure everybody feels this way about their team. But man, it just feels like the hits keep on coming, and to some very important people. So, Bree, what do we know at this point?
Mike Evans will miss a few weeks with a hamstring injury, and then tight end Kokeeft was moved to injured reserve, and he will be out for the remainder of the season. He broke his leg.
Yeah, poor guy.
And he was still walking around.
Because of course he was. Because Ko is like one of the toughest humans.
Yes, just kind of hobbled to the
Coach
bench.
Bull said he's the toughest guy on the team.
Yeah, I would believe that, to the point where I can't believe he almost just didn't amputate his leg and like hop back out there or something. Like he's the kind of guy where you knew when he hopped off that like it had to be bad because he's so tough. And he's not a star of the team in terms of like your most important guys, but man, he plays a very important role in this team.
Well, he's very important on special teams. He does a lot on special teams. He had 2 tackles in that game.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get a ton of snaps, like maybe 9 or 10 per game on offense. But apparently the role that he fills is tough for anybody else on our offense to replicate because Josh Grizzard, Coach Bowles, Baker Mayfield, all of them has said this week that it's difficult to replace Kokeeft. So he doesn't show up a lot in the stat sheet. We will probably now see Devin Culp getting his first real shot of the season because he's been inactive the first 3 games, but they're not really the same kind of player.
Right, and especially with all the offensive line injuries, I imagine the blocking side of Ko's job was even more important than usual. So
may need more from Payne Durham in that regard now.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. So then now I know some corresponding roster moves have been made this week.
So that opened up a spot on the active roster, and the Buccaneers filled it by promoting defensive lineman C.J. Brewer, who played a lot last year.
Yeah, very familiar face.
Yeah, and he was on the practice squad, obviously. I know it was a tight end going down and a DL being added, but that was needed too because Logan Hall, Kalijah Cansey's already out, so you only had 5 to start that game, one of whom, Elijah Simmons, just joined the team last week, and Logan Hall got hurt in that game and hasn't been practicing so far this week, so we needed some help at that position anyway. And then Desmond Watson is back, the Florida Gator defensive lineman who needed to hit a certain weight in order to actually have a shot. And so I guess he did because they gave him a workout and they signed him. So he's on the practice squad now, as is a new tight end named Caden Prieskorn.
Great name.
Pretty interesting. I think that's how you pronounce it. He went to Ole Miss. That's about all I can tell you right now.
That sounds like an Ole Miss name.
Does it? Really?
And in my mind,
Prieskorn.
yeah.
Okay.
If you say it with a southern accent, it helps.
Oh, Prieskorn.
There it is. God,
I'm not really good at accents.
I was so hoping that was what would happen.
That was incredible, Scott.
And Jack Henderson, a rookie safety, was released off the practice squad too, just to wrap up those moves.
Okay, so I know it feels like all we've had is bad news on the injury front. Is there a chance we have good news anytime soon with Tristan Wirfs and Chris Godwin? Because that would just make everything a whole lot better.
I think we can each take one of those. Tristan Wirfs is returned to practice. He was limited on the first day. I think they're ramping him up as the week goes. We don't get to, the media doesn't get to watch, so we don't get to report on all parts of practice. But when they were lining up for their little offensive line drills while we were out there, he was, running with the first or walking with the first team at that point in practice. So that's a good start. And then you can take Chris Godwin.
Chris Godwin Jr. was a full participant yesterday, and then it looked like he was coming out today to do the same thing. So
actually, he was held out of practice day, but not because anything bad happened. It just was the plan all along to arrest him on Thursdays.
Yeah.
He's probably now going forward going to get that same sort of treatment that Mike Evans and Levante David have been getting. So it was not a setback. It was just a plan that was ahead.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, so now we wanted to move a bit into the recap of this last game, starting on the offensive side of things. I wanted to talk about Baker Mayfield. I think that
really?
Yeah, I know, shocking. He's like, have you heard of him? Are you aware? Like, when we had our meeting of what we want to talk about, I just scooped that up before you could say
low-hanging fruit.
Heroics.
Yep, I was like, Baker, that's what I want to talk about. So what I want to talk about with him starts with him taking care of the ball. So last year, Baker tied for the most interceptions on the season. And I feel like they talked a lot about that in this offseason. It was something Josh Grizzard was asked about a lot of, how do we kind of make sure that maybe he can protect the ball a little bit more while still being able to do this, the stuff that makes him so special, of where you're not reining him in, but we maybe work on the interception to TD ratio a little bit. Well, it looks like whatever they talked about this offseason worked, because now he is only one of only 3 quarterbacks to have at least 5 touchdown passes and 0 interceptions. The others, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson.
Good company.
Good company. So love that. I mean, you're going to win a lot of games when that is your TD to interception ratio.
You mentioned those two. You know, he also has almost the exact same number of rushing yards as those two guys.
Yeah,
too.
which that is even more impressive, frankly. I think that's pretty
33
incredible.
yards scramble.
Yeah, the scramble was amazing. So yeah, he is 4th in rushing among quarterbacks behind just Mahomes, Hurts, and Lamar. Jeez. Again, not bad company.
He's got some wheels.
I love it. I love that he is not necessarily a guy who, shall we say, has always been known for the blazing speed. He would also joke about that himself. He even joked when I interviewed him after the game about that 33-yard scramble that he was like, hate getting caught from behind. Hate getting caught from behind. But yeah, I just think, man, he's taking care of the ball and still being able to get it done with his legs when it's needed. And even in a game like Sunday where there were 1,000 penalties and some mistakes and things, it was not the cleanest game in the world. Like, Baker's the guy that just gets it done. Like, whatever that takes, he's going to get it done. So I thought that was a really cool set of stats to just realize what a high level he is playing at right now. And thankfully he had, go ahead.
You don't normally see quarterbacks get better at running the football as their career goes on and as they get older. But he last year he set his own personal high with something like, I don't remember the number exactly, but something like 385 rushing yards in the season. And he's on pace to blow that away this year. So that game, part of his game is getting better later in his career, which is a little weird, but it's certainly been helpful for the Buccaneers. Yeah,
and I know that for him to have some of the good numbers he had, because as we've talked about, Mike Evans went out part of the game. We were still without Chris. Mike had some pretty amazing guys to still throw to, though, where if you, again, here you don't have Mike or Chris, you'd think that we'd be just so distraught, and which it is still sad, but man, we've had some guys step up.
So both Emeka Egbuka and Sterling Shepard had incredible games against the Jets. So Emeka Egbuka had several acrobatic catches, including that one-hander down the sideline for a gain of 30. And really just throughout the offseason, a lot of the coaches have raved about his football IQ, like the understanding of concepts at all three of the wide receiver positions, but his command of the catch point. Todd Bowles even said they don't really treat him like a rookie just because of how advanced he is in that regard. But just what he was able to do, had 6 receptions and 85 receiving yards. And then Sterling Shepard had four catches for 80 yards. Just kind of became that go-to target for Baker Mayfield over the middle of the field, kind of quick in and out of breaks. But I think you just saw that familiarity and their connection from Oklahoma kind of transfer here. And a guy that he really targeted in critical game time situations to move the chains. So.
Yep. All right, we are going to take a quick break here on Insider. We are going to have more when we come back, looking back at this Jets game. Welcome back into Bucs Insider, continuing to look back at that Jets game. I know that Yaya Diaby is a guy that we've been excited to see what he was able to do this year, and this felt like his coming out game for this season so far.
Was consistently in Tyrod Taylor's face, had a career high 11 pressures, and then according to Next Gen, he had 4 pressures in under 2.5 seconds. He had the most pressures by any player in a single game since Week 8 in 2024. And he probably would have had more, but he was getting the ball off so quickly on those checkdowns and the kind of that dink and dunk game to try and mitigate the Bucs pass rush. But I think it was encouraging just to see him consistently in the backfield, getting there, kind of create that separation at the point of attack. So incredible game by Yaya.
He had, according to Next Gen Stats, 20 of his pass rush snaps were against Olu Fashanu, the tackle that the Jets spent a pretty high pick on. Maybe 2 years ago or last year. And
I think he did pretty well.
And he had 7 pressures on those 20 snaps.
Wow.
So that's pretty darn
good. That
good.
is an incredible rate.
Good competition.
Also, Antoine Winfield is a guy who put up some pretty big numbers even for Antoine this game, which we are used to him making splash plays. But man, I love this. He had 2 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits, and a strip sack. He's now tied for 11th all-time among DBs with 18 sacks. Since he entered the league, he leads all DBs in QB hits and sacks and is tied for first in forced fumbles with 12. First defensive back this season to record a game with multiple quarterback hits and multiple tackles for loss. I mean, that's pretty wild. That's an incredible list of statistics for this guy. And just watching the way that, again, you read those numbers, they're already impressive. But each one of them feels like it is always at the most perfect, important moment, that it is a play that changes the trajectory of the game. And it's cool to see that, again, he missed a lot of time with injury last year, and it feels cool to see that we have peak Antoine back.
Yeah, he's already the Bucs all-time leader in sacks among safeties. Not among all DBs because, of course, Rondé Barber played here.
Yes.
2 more sacks for Antoine, and he'll be top 10 among DBs all time. I mean, that starts in 1982. But
and he's played so many fewer games than all those people.
Right.
Yeah, he's on a trajectory to be amongst the greatest sack artists of DBs we've ever seen.
And I think that's the beauty of him getting to play in Todd Bowles' defense, that Todd gives him the opportunities to do that more than maybe any other defensive coordinator would, because we know he just loves to send those DB blitzes. So, which we saw from a couple of our young guys. We've seen that the last few weeks of Todd's enjoying using them in that way too.
That's the great thing about it. It's not like Antoine Winfield is a one-man gang back there. I think in 2023, when he had that incredible All-Pro season, he was the guy making all of the plays, right? Now we see Jamel Dean with the pick 6 in this last one, but also our 2 young corners, Jacob Parrish. He's playing all of the slot nickels, snaps, and Benjamin Morrison is getting his chance to come in every now and then to spell Jamel Dean, and he's looked very good. The coaches have been very pleased with how both those players are playing. Of course, Jacob Parrish got a sack in this past game. So you have now not just one guy that you're counting on to make plays. You got a lot of playmakers, including Tyke Smith as well. So I think that was exactly the plan for the offseason that Todd Bowles had in mind for a secondary. More playmakers, more big plays.
Yes, more takeaways, which we also finally saw a couple of those. And I know Todd was just singing the praises. Over the moon. Slept good that night. All right, we're going to take another quick break here. We're going to look ahead to the Eagles game coming up next. Welcome back into Bucs Insider. Casey Phillips here with Scott Smith and Bree Dix. We are now going to look ahead to this Eagles game that, despite them not being in our division, just feels like we play them all the time.
Usually here.
Usually here, and usually even maybe this week.
This part of exactly. It was week 4 last season.
Week 4 last season. So I'm like, did they just forget to delete this week on the schedule? And man, it has, one thing that has changed in all these recent matchups is the addition of Saquon Barkley. We did get to face him last year, and would have preferred not to. Pretty talented guy. So tell me, what's he looking like so far this season?
Positives for Bucs fans going into this game is how the Bucs run defense has played. So they held the Jets to they held them to 99 rushing yards, which was the 11th straight game that the Bucs defense has held an opponent to under 100 rushing yards. So they held Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier to 24 rushing yards week 1, Nick Chubb to 43 in week 2, and then Breece Hall to just 21 in week 3. Now, obviously, Saquon Barkley is an entirely different animal. He's one of the best runners in the league, has it all. The patience, the power, the vision, the elusiveness, kind of his ability to kind of alter his course as he's going. So obviously being disciplined in run fits, but also what, Jalen Hurts presents with his ability to run. So we'll see how it stacks up on Sunday.
Yeah, he's currently averaging like 3.5 yards a carry, which is weird. So it's not going to last. So let's hope he doesn't get his breakout.
Yeah, let's hope it lasts one more week.
What he's able to do in the passing game as well. The Bucs have struggled a little bit with the running backs off the screens, the swing passes, and things like that. So getting him in space is also going to be critical, because once he gets to the second level, it's not going to be a good day for
That's
you.
what you have to fear against him. It's just that one big explosive play.
And the open field tackling against him is tough. It's a challenge to break down. It's like Derrick Henry and then Saquon. It's like who I least want to have to face.
Don't want that coming at me.
And next thing you know, he'll hurdle over you backwards too. So.
Yeah, just to embarrass you.
That was insane.
That's just rude. So you brought up Jalen Hurts, and that was kind of what I wanted to talk about, was the fact that he's one of the quarterbacks with more rushing yards than Baker's. We talked about one of the few, and 117 rushing yards and 4 touchdown runs so far. And then, what it doesn't show in that yardage is all of the tush pushes that maybe they only go for 1 yard, so his average isn't amazing, but very effective at that. So both sides of the the scrambling, the making plays with your feet, but then also his role in the tush push. Can you stop and contain Jalen Hurts? Because you talked about how amazing they've been in run defense when you look at the running backs, but last week Tyrod Taylor was their top rusher because of breaking contain sometimes. So can you contain Jalen Hurts? And then also, of course, can you stop the tush push, which the question everyone is asking is, well, are you just throwing Desmond Watson out there for it? Don't we love this question? So Todd made it rather clear.
Yeah.
No. That is not why
he's not playing in this game.
A coincidence he was brought in the week of the Eagles.
Yes.
Of course, all of the fans are now thinking that this is happening. But he needs a little bit more time to get acclimated to the system, get acclimated to playing again. And so Todd Bowles made it seem like this was not the reason he was brought in.
Oh, he was very emphatic about it.
Yeah.
And he also quite plainly said, no, he's not going to play this week. I mean, he's on the practice squad, so you have to be elevated, first of all. But no, he's not playing yet.
And Todd typically doesn't always like giving definitives in that area. So if he's giving a definitive in this one, it probably means something. I was thinking about how overall the offensive line for us has been a large talking point in the first few weeks for obvious reasons. And they have their work cut out for them this week against the Eagles. Yeah,
it sure would be nice if Tristan does play and they do the expected switch that we all think they would do, is put Tristan back at left tackle, Graham back at center, and Ben Bredesen back at left guard, because it's the interior of this line that's the real problem with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, both the guys in the first round from Georgia, huge. And you saw how fast Jordan Davis was for a 330-pound man when he was returning that blocked field goal this past week. The Eagles' run defense at this point in the season right now, it statistically doesn't look that great. They're like 25th in the league, giving up about 135 yards per game. But I still think it's a challenge to run the ball up the middle against that team because of those guys. But that's not where their impact ends. They also, they were the reason those 2 field goals were blocked by the Philadelphia special teams at the end of last game. They just get the push in there, and that breaks through the line, and they're right in the kicker's lap.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure. All right, we have one more segment coming up. We'll be right back with more on Bucs Insider. Welcome back into Bucs Insider. Casey Phillips, Scott Smith, and Bree Dix here. So this is our segment where we tend to do a little bit of by the numbers. We find trivia, we find milestones in history, whatever it looks like. And this one we had a bit of a unique one we wanted to start with for by the numbers, and it was the number of wins in this new jersey.
I kind of spoiled that earlier in the show, didn't I? Yeah, so the Buccaneers wore these jerseys that they wore this past week only in 1976. And the Buccaneers were an expansion team in a really tough era for expansion teams. And they went 0-14 famously. So they changed uniforms after that because they were hard to see on television. And this is the first time they've been back, and that's a win. So week 2 broke that prime time curse.
Yes.
Week 3 broke the creamsicle curse, if you want to count it.
Look at that.
And then, first 3-0 start since 2005. So we broke that, couldn't get that third win.
Records here.
Every other last 4 years we had 2-0, but couldn't get to 3-0. So.
Yeah. So just everything that people would have thought was potentially a curse or just a thing that we couldn't do. We're like, all right, check.
You're gonna have to come up with some other curse.
Some other one now that we got those figured out. All right. So now, how about this week in Bucs history? What do we have? Yeah.
Well, let me take you in the Wayback Machine.
The Wayback.
Way back. All the way to the season of 2024.
Oh.
This week in team history in 2024, the Philadelphia Eagles came to town.
What do you know?
And the Buccaneers won 33-16. Ran out to a 24-0 start, really started.
Yeah.
And Baker was talking about that. Against a team like this, what's the key? And the first thing he said was start fast. And we had touchdowns on our first 2 drives in that game. Had a 24 lead before you knew it, and then just kind of ran away with it. So that's good. You mentioned that the Eagles keep coming here. They beat us here in 2023 in week 3, and we beat them here in week 6 in 2021. So this will be 4 or 5 years, and they come within the first 6 weeks of the season.
And then also, wasn't there a playoff game as well?
Yeah, we beaten them twice in the playoffs in recent years.
Crazy.
But particularly earlier in the season, it's kind of been weird how they keep happening.
coming here.
But I hope they like heat.
Yeah, we're serving that up this weekend. It's very true. And then I wanted to close with my own number. I know you're normally the numbers guy.
Oh, no.
I thought it was one that was very interesting.
Join the nerds.
After the end of the first quarter, there were only 4 more combined offensive yards than penalty yards between the two teams. And that was just the craziest thing I've ever witnessed. I've never seen anything like it.
4 holding calls in the span of 7 snaps.
I think the fact that we won despite all of that, that would have been such an easy way to just feel so discombobulated.
Yes.
I was proud of the team for sticking with that. So that's going to do it for us on this edition of Buccaneers Insider. Thank you so much for being with us. We hope you enjoy that game against the Eagles this weekend, and then we'll see you next week.